Yesterday, we started with the AWS Data Engineering and Data Analytics Bootcamp, the webinar. So within that webinar, I just have given you a roadmap. I just have given you a roadmap mentioning what are all the things that we are going to cover within this data engineering and data analytics bootcamp. Okay, so and another thing I have told you is there are people that might be coming from multiple backgrounds. Some happens to be the freshers, some happens to be the already been working in this data platforms, and somebody has been trying to cross switch their platforms, and then they want to taste the environment of this data engineering and data analytics. Okay, so that's the reason I just want to normalize everybody, and then make sure that for the first 4 to 5 days, I just want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with respect to what is AWS. Okay, what is the cloud computing platform. Okay, what are the advantages that we have within this one, and then we'll be creating a free trial AWS account that will be used for 365 days. Okay, we'll be doing that one, and then for every AWS, what happens is that there will be a lot of core computing services that are really required. Okay, when I say that there are a couple of core computing services, that means what happens is for everything, what you need to have is that you need to have the memory, you need to have the compute, you need to have the storage, and then the database. These are the 4 things that are really required. Okay, so we'll make sure that we understand all these particular concepts. Okay, making sure that you are comfortable to start your journey as a data engineer, and then only what we do is that we'll start going into the concept of this. We'll start going into the concept of this uh, data engineering with AWS. Fair enough? Okay. Now, so what I want to do in the meantime is I want you to go here. Those people who are not having any AWS free trial account I'm talking about. So in this one, what you do is that you mention something like AWS free trial account. You just do this one, and then you're having something like Amazon Web Services. Sign up for a free AWS account. Please open that one. Okay, so here what you'll be doing is that you will be getting this AWS free trial. So the expectation is by tomorrow, once we join here, I expect and encourage everyone to have this AWS free tier account that is created. Okay, while you are creating this particular AWS free tier account, what happens is you will be asked to provide your credit card or a debit card, where you'll be charged $1 or 1 rupee, and then that will be transferred back to your account. So that what you do is that you will be identifying they will be verifying your identity, that you are the person who will be utilizing this particular account. That's the reason they will ask you for the credit card information or the debit card information. No harm, just go ahead and then complete your free trial registration process, and then have your account ready. Okay, so 1 minute. I heard somebody has. So I want you to get into that AWS free trial, which you will be doing in the next couple of minutes also as well. Okay. Before that one, what we do is that let us welcome to this AWS thing what you have been learning in this AWS. Okay, so I am telling you the brief roadmap. What we'll be doing here. The brief roadmap is going to be something like we will be working on the AWS fundamentals. We'll be getting into the free trial environment, just like the way what I have created here, and we'll be getting familiar with respect to this AWS environment. Okay, And then when you go to these services, there are a lot of services that exist. Okay, hundreds and tens of services are being added every month here. So, but among them, there are a couple of core services that you need to really understand, get hands-on on those particular core services in order to make sure that you start your journey as a data engineer. So I'll tell you the core services, what you do. When you go to compute, you need to have something called as EC2. I'm just telling you the concept. Don't worry about the details. We'll get into the details very soon. Okay. We need to know what is this EC2. Okay. And when you go into this storage here, we'll be talking more about this S3, which is very, very important. Very, very important. So this S3, this storage, and then when you go into this database, we'll be talking about this RDS, very, very important, relational database service, which is very important. Okay. And similarly, when you go into this security, identity, and compliance, there is something called as IAM. IAM. So what are these things here? Identity access management. So that's the reason when you go on to this AWS, there are a couple of domains that you need to really understand. Those things happens to be your compute. What is something that I'm telling you in compute? You need to select something like EC2, important, because you need to have something called as storage. Within the storage, we need to have something like S3 is important. When you talk about a database, in the database, we'll be talking about something like RDS, relational database service, we'll be talking. And then when we talk about that security, we'll be talking about something called as IAM, stands for Identity Access Management. And here in networking, what we do is that we'll talk about something like VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, and then we'll also something called as subnets. Don't worry, these are only the names that I'm mentioning here, but these are all the minimum core services that are really required to make sure you get your hands dirty before you start working on this particular platform. That's the reason we'll be focusing most of our attention on this particular platforms basically. Okay, that is the thing that we are going to do here in this particular case. That is the thing that we are going to do in this particular program here. Okay, now the second thing that we need to understand here is compute, storage, database, security, and networking, which is nothing but your VPC and subnets that you'll be using as the core AWS services. And yesterday, while taking feedback from some of the people, they are mentioning something like, hey Ravi, are you going to complete the course within 40 days? How come you think you'll be able to cover this vast subject within that 40 days? Is a question that has been asked, and I truly appreciate the person who has asked. I think he's not here today, but I want to let you know one thing here. I never told that the course is going to be for 40 days. We will be spending the complete November, December, and January in this particular AWS, because yesterday, if you remember, I have told you I'll be interacting with each and everyone to understand your background, where you come from, whether you are proficient in cloud computing or AWS or databases. Once I understand that particular background, I will be going into I will be normalizing all these things. Based on that one only, I will be taking care of this particular course. That's what I have.
What?
I have told you basically yesterday. So here, one thing that you can be assured is, if I start talking about D, okay, I will make sure that you all know A, B, C, and BC. Then only I'll talk about D. Otherwise, I don't talk. Okay, so that's the reason special care and special attention will be taken to do this particular program here. That's the reason I never put any 40-day, 45-day limit and everything. The moment once whoever is going to join this particular program, okay, everybody should be feeling comfortable that yes, I have done something in data engineering and data analytics, and I will be ready for certification, as well as I'll be ready for attending the job interviews by getting market ready as a complete data professional, then only I'll be able to take up this particular program. So that's why rest assured you'll be covered in all the aspects what you are going to be covered, and you'll be taken care in this particular aspects also as well. Okay, don't worry on that one. If you have any questions, I'll always be there on WhatsApp or Gmail or wherever. You can call and then talk or text. We can discuss. That should not be a problem. Okay, so first thing is that I just want you to welcome to this thing here. Okay, and another thing what we want is that I would like to know your feedback. Anything what we do here. Okay, yesterday there are a couple of people who has given me some valuable feedback. I'm taking that one, and again that feedback is not a destructive feedback. It is always a constructive feedback that the guys has been given. So I appreciate, and then I take those inputs, and then I'll take it from there. Okay, and then when we go to this background of AWS, okay, whoever are already working in AWS, kindly cooperate. Thank you so much for your patience. I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in AWS before we take on the things here. Okay, so earlier we have something like Amazon.com, and then you have this Amazon Web Services. So earlier it was a consumer business. Now our life goes with Amazon, right? We not only we purchase something, we also sell that one. Sell on Amazon websites also as well. You can do that one too here. Sell on Amazon websites, you can do that one here. And on top of that one, it now has become an infrastructure business. That means that it is a cloud computing, okay, for the purpose of doing all the services I have shown you here, right? These services you don't find in any other cloud service provider here. The services are enormous. The services are enormous from pin to pencil, from pin to plane. Okay, so not that we are going to learn all these particular services. So whatever services that are required for data engineering and data analytics, we'll be discussing in depth for sure. So right now we are here. So Amazon is a consumer business, seller business, along with it has its IT infrastructure business also as well. Okay, now you will be asking here, what is this consumer or seller business? This is the place where it has the large amount of packings and everything that happens. And then what it has done is that it has been transformed into this Amazon Web Services, basically. How did Amazon get into this cloud computing is important. How did this Amazon get into this cloud computing is important. So that's why this Amazon Web Services is having a mission. Okay, what exactly is that mission is, please follow here. What exactly that mission is, enable businesses and developers. We are all the developers. And then there are some startups also as well here to use web services. Earlier, they were calling as web services. Now what we are doing is that we are doing that one as the cloud, to build a scalable and sophisticated applications within the cloud. That means that these are all the web services that you're having here. With these web services, you can create your applications, you can run your business, you can create your startups, you can create your websites, whatnot. You name it, it is there here. You can do your gaming development, you can do your machine learning, artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, robotics, along with satellite also as well. Right now, my company, my sister concern also has signed a deal with NASA, okay, using this satellite services for the purpose of reading the images from the satellite, the weather forecasting and all those things basically. So this is how this satellite is also going to be used here. Ground stations are also there in order to do this particular thing here. Okay, now we call this one as a cloud. So if you want to understand what is this cloud computing, I told you, right, it is a broad and deep platform that helps customers build sophisticated and scalable applications, whether their applications are your Java, Python, database, data warehouse, analytics, streaming, IoT, blockchain, anything that you matter, everything is going to be created using this Amazon Web Services here basically. But for all these things to happen, I told you, it is something like on-demand services that we can do. Like there is no need for you to procure everything beforehand. Okay, suppose right now what I need to do is that I want to have some 20 GB of RAM that I want to use. You go to the storage, go to the storage here. Okay, you go to the database or else you go to the storage. Okay, you can have the option of procuring some amount of storage either using EFS or EBS, something of the sort, or else you can have the option of using go to this compute, and while creating this cloud compute EC2 environment, there you can have the option of procuring that particular memory also as well. Basically, that is on demand. When you need, then only you procure. When you don't need, then what you can do is that you can release that particular resource. That is what is treated as on demand in this particular case. Okay, and then it is something called as measured service. Measured service means if you have a mobile, okay, iPhone, which is having 1 terabyte of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, you may not be using that 1 terabyte of storage, right? Maybe you'll be using some 250 GB of storage. In such a case, what happens is that 750 gigabytes of storage is being wasted. But here, what you do is that you pay as you go. If you need only 100 gigabytes, pay only for that 100 gigabytes. Don't pay for the other 7 or 900 gigabytes. That is what is treated as a measured service. It is also treated as a metered service, basically. Okay, so this is a cloud computing is the only thing is that you have the internet like this. You have the internet like this. Okay, and you can have the option of going into a type of cloud computing. Suppose I want to go something like salesforce.com. Salesforce is a cloud. Salesforce.com, open this one and then go there and then start the free trial or then develop an application, and then you can do like this. The only thing what you need to have is that you need to have a laptop and an internet connection in order to access these particular services, basically. Broad network access, self-service, resource pooling, all these things we'll be discussing very soon on this one, basically here. So that is one that we do here. And other thing is that I told you that broad net of services what you're having here, this is what is your breadth and depth, what you can see here. And I show you within this slide, from this current slide, you can see these are all the services that you have here, basically. But one thing I want to focus here is on these core services. On these core services, what are these core services, Pari? You'll be seeing this compute, because if I want to do anything, what I need is I need the compute power. The compute power in the case of AWS is basically treated as EC2. It is nothing but your elastic cloud compute, or else elastic compute cloud, we say here. This is your compute we use. And then we can have the option of using this storage. Memory is really required. And then you need to have this networking, because you are not going to spin one computing system, right? You'll be spinning a lot of systems, and that lot of systems need to be combined with the help of a cluster, and that cluster is nothing but your network services you need to have. And obviously, since we are going to deal with data engineering and data analytics, obviously we need this databases, database services we need. And we also need this CDN, that is the cloud distribution network we need. So these are all the core services that we'll be using in order to start our journey with respect to data warehousing, AWS data engineering. So we are not going to see all the services here, but what we'll be doing is that we'll be learning these analytical services that you see here. We'll be learning these particular core services. The infrastructure we'll be talking about, the security and compliance we'll be talking about, and then the management tools also we'll be learning here, basically. Okay, these are all the things that, and here we'll be talking about these migration services also as well. So just I'm trying to give you an understanding. Tomorrow, if somebody is going to ask you, what are all the things that you need to be aware of in these particular services? The first and foremost thing is you need to be good with respect to these core services. Then you should be good with respect to your analytics. And then you should be good with respect to your database, the migration services along with the database. These are all the things that we need to be very good with it, basically. Okay. Now, overview of this Amazon Web Services, what I told is that it is a comprehensive cloud computing platform. Pari, don't you think that it is very comprehensive?
Yes, it is.
It is very comprehensive cloud computing platform. It contains the storage, databases, machine learning, and more. And one more thing is that it enables business to scale and then manage their IT infrastructure, reducing costs. Okay, we'll be seeing that one. And one more thing is that it is the leading choice of businesses because no other cloud computing platform, okay, provides such a type of vast range of cloud computing services because this is the one and only cloud service provider that provides all these particular features. That's why it is a leading choice. And I'm not trying to degrade the other cloud service providers. Of course, Azure is trying to make up all the best possible efforts in order to be the competitor in the Gartner's quadrant, but Azure happens only to be the second choice because of a limited it doesn't have that vast amount of options that it has basically. Okay, so this is what is your overview of this Amazon Web Services here. Now, when you see this graph, what you can see here, infrastructure, see, when we are in November, what you can see here is that the sales volume is going to be more because of the Thanksgiving, because of the Christmas, the New Year, the Pongal, and all those things. There will be a peak of sales that happens. But in February and March, when all the festival season completes, assuming that you have this low amount of sales that happens. That means that what you need to do is here, when the amount of sales is low, that means that all your resources will be of low utilization basically. But here, when you are going to have the significant amount of infrastructure is required because of the peak in these sales volumes that you're going to have here in this particular case. Okay, so that means that when you purchase, as I've told you the Typhoon example, right? When you purchase that amount of resource, 1 terabyte of resource, here it is sitting idle, but here it is being used more. So AWS solves the problem with the type of concept called as elasticity. Elasticity is something like a rubber band. You stretch it whenever you need, and whenever you don't need it, you compress that one. That type of elasticity will be provided with the help of this AWS basically. Okay, so here what happens is AWS is right now there in 25 regions around the world. Okay, and then it is a subsidiary of Amazon, I have told you, and services are offered in demand. I hope everybody has understood what is the purpose of this on-demand services. You need it when you want. When you don't need it, you need to release them basically. You don't need it, you need to release them. That's the reason we can specify that services are offered on demand. And then it is a metered billing, just like when you want to pay for your electricity and water, you pay for what you use. That's why charges for the services based on usage here in this particular case. Okay, this is what is your Amazon Web Services. And what are all the service categories that we are having here? We have the storage, compute, database, and analytics. See, and networking. So the core services, if anybody is going to ask you, the core services are your compute, storage, database, and networking. Because networking is something like the cluster of communication that happens between the computers. We need this networking. We need the database because this is the core part that we are going to see in this particular course. Storage is something that you need the memory in order to store all your information. And then compute is something, your processing power that we use, and that is treated as your compute here. And then we'll be looking at a POC on this machine learning using SageMaker also as well. These are all the things that we are going to do. Of course, the analytics. So I am not mentioning all the broad range of services what you are having here, but these are all the services that we are going to utilize for our data engineering purpose. I hope everybody has understood the necessity of understanding these core services before we make our first step into the data engineering and data analytics. Because if you don't know what is S3, if you don't know what is EC2, if you don't know what is the RDS, if you don't know what are all those users and roles and profiles, you will not be able to work within this environment. That's the reason the first couple of days I'll be focusing more on these particular features. I know there are a couple of people like Karthikeyan, the one and only cloud specialist here, and I request such type of people to be patient till we come to that particular plan, because I just want to make sure that I take care of everyone before we reach that particular step. Okay. So these are all the things that we cover in this particular platform here. Now, told you, right? Compute is very much important. Amount of resources such as CPU, RAM, and duration is a metered service. Like you pay for your utilization, but you don't pay for what you don't use. Storage, I have told you, like these are the databases. You have your EFS, elastic file system, and then you have this elastic block storage, quantity of data stored, and then quantity of data that is transferred out of from all these services. So these are the three things that we will be paying. See, when Murali Mohan, when you are trying to get the data into AWS, you will not be charged. Okay. But when you get the data out of your AWS to the outside world, you will be charged. That's the reason you'll be charged for the outbound transfer, but you will be never charged for the inbound transfer of data. Okay. Then storage you need to pay for, and then for this particular compute you need to pay for basically. So each day AWS adds enough server capacity to power AWS when it was a global 7 billion enterprise. So services, resources, compute power, everything is really being added. That's why there is no way that everybody will be feeling some shortage of those resources going forward. Nothing of that sort will be there, because we try to use the concept of resource pooling in order to make these things happen in this particular platform basically. Okay. Now, utility computing, see, I told you, right, you pay for what you use, like electricity, water, and all those things. Here also as well, what you'll be doing is you'll be paying for your infrastructure utilities. You pay for what you use in the terms of this infrastructure. On demand, available, pay for what you use. This is the infrastructure that what you do in the case of this one. And all this particular infrastructure and all the available services what you are having here is being utilized with the help of your APIs only. APIs, we'll be talking about that API, which is an important part, that is application programming interface. With the help of this application programming interface only, see, there are two things. If you are really good at programming, you can write the scripts, but if you are not good at programming, what you can do is that when I go to this compute, when I select this CC2, and here, when it launch an instance, you are clicking a button. That means that behind the scenes, what you're doing is you're calling an API. You're calling an API to launch an instance, basically. That's how this is something going to work. That means that the whole thing, what you're having here, is going to be used by your API calls. That means that every service that you're having here in AWS is going to be called with the help of your application programming interface. Don't be scared about this application programming interface. That is as easy as clicking the buttons and then launching them here in this particular case. That is what is the API that will be launching here in this case. Yeah. Now, global footprint. What is this global footprint? Karthikeyan, sir, can you tell me what is this global footprint?
Yeah, it's globally used for everywhere, right? They're keeping their print.
Yeah, I think a long time ago, there is a saying in the market, like wherever you go, my network follows. Okay, wherever you go across the globe, you have your presence felt. That is what is your global footprint. I don't know about Antarctica, but this is Australia, this is South America, this is America, this is India. Here also we have the India also as well. These are all the places where your presence is felt. I think this is an old diagram, but around the globe, you have your AWS that is being present here in this case here. So that's the reason all these things are nothing but your AWS regions. Means, I'll show you here. These are all your AWS regions that you can see here. These are all your AWS regions. Asia Pacific Mumbai is also there. Asia Pacific Mumbai is also there. I think Hyderabad also should be there here. Basically, I don't know where it has been there. See, Asia Pacific Hyderabad is there. These are all the places where your Amazon Web Services is present. So these things are treated as the regions. We'll be discussing about that one. So these are all the AWS regions. That means that these are all the geographical locations where your AWS presence is felt, where the offices are there, where everything exists. And within these regions, what you are having is that you'll be having something else, the availability zones. These availability zones are nothing but your data centers. These availability zones are nothing but your data centers. That means that these are all the places where your data centers, your computers and everything are present here. The infrastructure is present in these particular places in these availability zones. So that means that the highest level happens to be your regions, and the second level what you're having here is nothing but your availability zone. So here, when you try to launch an instance, I need to mention in which region and which VPC you want to launch. Everything has to be specified. Suppose when you come down, 1 minute. You need to mention the region, and within that region also as well, you'll be having the network specifications. The network specifications happens to be your VPC. All those particular things are going to be specified here in order to make sure. See here, these are the network specifications where exactly you want your instance to be created. Okay, all those particular things are going to be specified within this availability zones. Networking aspect you are going to see here. So if anybody asks you these availability zones, in short, we call them as edges. And using those particular edges, what we do is that we call them as the data centers here in this particular case. And another thing what you are having is that endpoints. Endpoints means every application will be given a subsequent link through which you will be able to access. That is what is treated as the endpoints. We'll be discussing that one at a later point of time. But the major thing what you need to understand is that you have these regions, and then you have these zones that they need to exist here. So that's why when you go here, the first thing what you're having is you have these regions, and within these regions you have these availability zones. See here, each region is connected by a high bandwidth, fully redundant network here. High bandwidth, fully redundant network here in this particular case. Okay, in this particular region, what you're going to have is that you're having these availability zones. These are all the availability zones where the data centers are present. And within this, see here, an availability zone consists of one or more data centers. A region is a physical location in the world, and it is independent. This is what is your global AWS that you have been using here, basically. I hope everybody is following so far. Any questions you are having here, please let me know. Manogna, I hope you are following. Pravalika, Priya, Sumana, all those guys. So yeah. So this is the place where you have your regions and the availability networks that exist here. You have the region. Within the region, you have these availability zones. In the availability zones, you are going to have these data centers. And within the data centers only, these are all your physical computers, physical virtual machines that will be created here. These are all the centers that will be created here in the corporate data center, which is in the availability zone. See here, this is the available in the region, in the availability zone, and within that availability zone, you have this outposts we'll talk about, and this is the place where we are creating these instances basically. We are creating here basically. So that's why whenever you create something, you should be very well aware of where exactly is being created. Suppose people are from India, okay, and those people would like to have a service that need to be created, they can create here. If they create here and they are trying to access that one, what happens is that the network cost is going to be less. But if it is being created in America, and then if you are trying to access it from India, what happens is that it is going to be of more cost that is going to be involved here, right? That's the reason you need to be aware of these global regions. You need to be aware of these global availability zones in order to make sure that you know the location and the region where your services are being created. That's the reason these regions and these availability zones happens to be very important in this particular case here. Okay. Now, so for AWS, are we customers? Are we the part of AWS? Can anybody tell me? Are we customers or happens to be the part of AWS?
Partner.
We happens to be the customers. We happens to be the customers of AWS. Okay. So basically what happens is, see, when I'm doing the bootcamp for you, for me, there are certain set of responsibilities that I need to fulfill. And for you also as well, you have a certain set of responsibilities that you need to fulfill. So for me, I need to make sure that I need to prepare the course curriculum in a good way, make sure that I deliver the content properly, and then make sure that you understand. If you have any questions, I need to clarify. If I don't have that answer, let me refer and then try to answer to you. That is my part. Your part is learning and then preparing and then getting certified. That is your part basically. So here also as well, in AWS environment, there are two things that everyone should understand, like the responsibilities. This is what is called as your shared responsibility model. Within this shared responsibility model, what really happens is, see here, what really happens is AWS has a role to play, and then as a customer, you have a role to play. You are the custodian of your data. AWS really don't take consideration of your customer data. You are the owner of your data, and you are the owner of your operating system. You are the owner of your network and firewall configuration, and anything that is related to your side, you are responsible. You are responsible. But with respect to AWS, providing you the compute systems, providing you the storage, providing you the database platform, the networking, these regions, availability zones, these are all your AWS responsibility. These are all your AWS responsibility. That means that customer is responsible for the security within the cloud, in the cloud. Here, the security of the cloud, the whole data center security, the whole availability zone security, the whole region security, the whole the machines, the storage, the infrastructure, everything is going to be taken care by AWS. But here you are the person who is liable to take care of all these particular things here with respect to the customer. So as a customer, you are responsible for your assets, and AWS is responsible for its assets. And then you can't go and then complain to the customer support saying like, hey, my data is lost, what should I do? Hey, my data is compromised, what should I do? Or else, hey, my data is not replicated, I'm not able to retrieve the data, what should I do? Because that is your responsibility to make sure that you define the good goal settings to make sure that you properly store the data, properly save the data, and then make it secure. That is your responsibility here. So this is the responsibility within your system as a customer, and AWS is having its own responsibility. Doesn't matter whether you do DevOps, whether you do this data science, data engineering, or databases or something else, you should be responsible, and you should know the shared responsibilities what you're having here as a customer as well as an AWS basically. Okay. Now, if you want to be further defined here, you need to understand here. Buckets, if you create, you are responsible. EC2 instance, you are responsible. Patch management, like you are installing an operating system and then for applying the patches, you are responsible. Okay. And then for creating the users and all those things, suppose if you have given an unauthorized the privileges to the one user and then he has screwed up all your data, then who is responsible? AWS or you? Will be responsible. You will be responsible for establishing your multi-factor authentication also as well. You are responsible, not AWS for that matter. Not AWS for that particular matter. Okay. Now, Molly, I hope you are following. Now, AWS responsibility is the data center, security, network routers, switches. These are all the things that AWS is responsible for, and you're responsible for your assets that you create within your. You're responsible for the purpose of managing your assets here in this case. That is your shared responsibility. Now I told you something like CapEx and OpEx. What is that one? Like when you go to this AWS, when you open this particular services, what you have is that management and governance. Within this management and governance, what you have is that you have your CloudWatch along with you have something like 1 minute. So when you go to this particular CloudWatch, what happens is I can have the option of setting some alarms. Alarms in the sense, suppose you are exceeding your budget, and while exceeding your budget, you just want to make sure that you want to put a limit to ensure that the budget should not cross, and then it should be alerted. Then you can have the option of creating these alarms here, basically. Okay, so these are all the things that you can do here. So in the case of traditional computing platform, what happens is you are responsible for your capital expenditure. What is the purchasing servers, the depreciation, the hardware, the software, the maintenance, all those particular things is something that you are responsible. But here, in the case of operational expenditure, which is your operational expenditure, what happens is in the cloud computing, what happens is that you will be utilizing your pay-as-you-go model. Within that pay-as-you-go model, what you generally do is that you will be responsible for your operational month-to-month expenses. This is something that will be incurred at the beginning of your project, and this is something that will happen month on month, which is your operational expenditure. So that's why when you start moving from on-premise to cloud, what you are doing is that you are literally moving from your capital expenditure to this operational expenditure. That means that I'm trying to trade this capital expenditure for this variable expenditure in this particular case. This is one thing that you need to understand. Now, I want to understand another advantage is these are all my customers that I'm having here. These are all my customers that I'm having here in AWS. All these particular customers, what you're having here, will be sharing the compute. They'll be sharing the database engines. They'll be sharing your storage resources. They'll be sharing everything over there. That's why what you're doing is that AWS provides a pool of compute, pool of storage, pool of networking that everybody will be sharing the part of your compute. That's the reason. Suppose when you are the customer, when I'm purchasing a computer, which will be having something like $700 when I purchase for a laptop, okay, that means that I can't get benefited out of that one. So when you go to the cloud and then when you try to purchase a compute power, I think you will be able to do it within some $40 to $50 per site, for example. That means that in AWS, you are not only the one who will be utilizing, right? In case if your work is completed and then when you terminate that instance, somebody else will be using. Okay, somebody else among these particular customers will start utilizing. That's the reason what happens is since massive people uses, then obviously what you do is that you get these resources at less cost. You get these particular resources at less cost in this particular case. The first one is we are not going to have the highest investments that we need to do on this capital expenditure, but you'll be having that capital expenditure turns on to month-to-month billing in this particular case. Benefits from the mass amounts of scale. And third thing is that what you really need is only one thing that you focus. What you thought need is nothing but a wastage. That means that, hey, how much memory that I need, how much computing power that I need, or how much storage that I need, that is something you need to stop guessing when you're using this AWS or cloud computing platform. Because what happens is you utilize only what you want. I have told you something called as elasticity, right? In case if you need more at some point of time, you can instantaneously get that power. And the moment once you utilize, you can release that power basically back. That's the reason there is no need for you to start guessing how much memory, RAM, computing power is really required in order to make these things happen. So that's why the third thing what you're having is stop guessing capacity. And fourth thing is that increase speed and agility. Like for example, when I want to develop a website, or when I want to develop a web application, or else when I want to create a database and then make it available, okay, how much time you can do? You can be able to do it within a matter of hour or 2 hours, basically. That is the speed and agility you will be able to do. That means that you'll be able to deploy your resources easily and quickly, and you will be able to react to the change in the market, because we are working in a time-sensitive environment, right? Especially when you try to use your thing like Amazon.com or Macy's.com and something of that sort, there will be multiple barriers that will be fighting the battles in order to get your attention. That's the reason you need to react to that change and then speed to the market. That's why the another advantage what you're having here in cloud is you'll be able to react fast, and then you'll be able to deploy your resources to the production very quickly and easily here. There is the fourth advantage. And the fifth advantage is stop spending money running and maintaining the data centers. I told you, right? When you need to maintain the data center, it costs a lot of money. It really costs a lot of money in this particular case. But here, there is no need for you to maintain these data centers. There is no need for you to do anything for that particular matter. But only one thing what you need to do is you need to pay for the resources that you are using from somebody else's ownership. That's the reason there is no need for you to spend money on maintaining those particular data centers. That is the fifth advantage what you're having here. And the sixth advantage what you're having is global in minutes. This is the Mumbai here, and then Hyderabad is also there. If you are in Mumbai, and then if you want to create your application and then spread across all the regions within the globe, you can do that within minutes. So that means that it is having global presence because of all these particular things with the highest tier 1 sophisticated network that you are having in AWS. That's the reason this is something which happens to be very effective in the case of happens to be very effective in the case of this AWS or in the cloud computing, basically. So all these advantages what I'm talking with respect to AWS only, and that also applies to other cloud providers also as well. So these are the 6 advantages what you're having here. Okay, so I'll stop here today. So today what we have discussed is I told you the theme of this AWS data engineering and data analytics. I'm not in a rush. I'll go very leisurely to make sure that you get the concepts, making sure that you get a solid foundation, and then we'll be starting our journey of AWS data engineering. Okay, and the second thing is that there are a set of certain core services that we need to understand, and those core services happens to be, I told you, right? In compute, you need to have something like EC2, storage, you need to have something like S3, and then you need to have something like database like RDS, and then there will be something like networking VPC and subnets you need to understand. Okay, once I do those particular things, once I make you to get into the environment of AWS tomorrow by creating a free trial account for 1 year, we'll be looking into these particular things, and then slowly we will be focusing on the aspects of your data engineering aspects. Most probably by next week, mid of next week, we'll be starting this particular data engineering concepts. Okay, that's how the course is going to start. Okay, so I need to join another session. So if you have any questions, kindly let me know quickly. Otherwise,
Ravi, quick question. So the Kafka is part of AWS or separate?
Which one? Kafka?
Yeah.
Kafka is a third party, but we'll be seeing that managed service in the case of AWS as a third party. We'll be seeing that one also as well, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? So I'll share this recording and then we'll meet tomorrow. Tomorrow's agenda is we'll create this first 365-day free trial account, and then we'll be going through the AWS environment, and then we'll be seeing how to create a root user, the IAM user, and then we'll be seeing the basic concepts of S3, EC2, and then how to access that EC2 and then S3 bucket, how to upload the files and deploy the files. All those things we'll start seeing, and then we'll be taking it from there. Okay, if you have any questions, please text me or contact me. I'll be able to answer that one. Otherwise, tomorrow we'll discuss and then we'll proceed after doing the clarifications. Okay, I stop sharing, and then thank you so much for attending this particular session. I appreciate all your trust and confidence on me, and we'll make sure that we go in this particular journey with the other things, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
So where do you have the recording, sir?
My recording will be in the cloud, and then I'll be sharing with you. As soon as I get that recording from the cloud, and then I'll be sharing it with you. If you have joined from Visual Path or who is the other one? Sorry. Harsha Trainings. I'm sorry for that one. Harsha Trainings. They'll be sharing with you. Otherwise, if you have joined from my side, I'll be sharing that one. I have all the email IDs of my references also as well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you.